All right, it is 3:30 at GDevCon. Is everybody excited? Fantastic event. Woo! You all should have some little notebooks there in front of you. There's kind of a purpose behind them that we will get to eventually. But let's get started with boost your innate human creativity and make AI your bitch. I will say that 2 more times throughout the thing. Otherwise, I'll try to be nice and say, own your AI. So wherever Eric, so Eric, that's my philosophy. Own your AI. But before we get started, I will let you guys know, it took me approximately 30 milliseconds to figure out who I want to celebrate for our Giants are female. So Evelyn Hollenbach is my daughter. She's 22 now. Great. Brian's videoing this, and I'm trying to remember how old my daughter is, and she's going to know that when she gets the video from Brian here. She's 22. I could talk about all the fabulous things that she's done. She held up the Tower of Pisa when we were in Italy, just so it didn't fall down. She has been a great big sister to her step-siblings. Sometimes she's grumpy, like her mama. My hair didn't get that crazy, though. She is a phenomenal athlete, 4-year varsity field hockey, 2-year lacrosse. That's us in Nashville. So when David talks about Tennessee, it is awesome. We were at the George Strait concert. It rained out, but George and Chris got to belt out Amarillo by morning before we all got kicked out. That is her at work. She worked on the K-Cup line for Keurig Dr. Pepper and is doing another internship for them. And that is us at our favorite restaurant. This is the best restaurant in Boston, North End. Where's John Gianangeli? Yeah, this is Dino's, and it's a great little restaurant on a corner triangle, and John's sister Ann runs this restaurant, and the food's fabulous and the prices aren't crazy. So if you go to North End, go to Dino's. There's a reason why I wanted to bring up my daughter, and that was her taking me out around Boston over the summertime. So this kid knows herself. She really understands what makes her tick. And she's learned that through so many different environments, and she's very much an independent thinker, which is great until she disagrees with me. But I think it's really important when we are talking about AI to be independent thinkers and make our decisions. Like, it was a fantastic chart that Eric had where we all have different approaches to AI. Some of us are scared to death. Some of us are going like hog wild. We're going to use AI, don't know what for, but we're going to use it. So we want to be independent thinkers, and we want to know our context, ourselves, our companies that we work for. And it just so happens she is a chemical engineer, so she's an engineer like us. She is going to graduate next year from the UT, the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, not that place in Austin that doesn't understand colors like orange. So I'm proud of her. She's a fellow engineer, but we really want to be thinking about ourselves, our context, be independent thinkers as we start to dive into AI. So who am I? I know quite a few of you guys, but I don't know everyone. So real quickly, for those of you who don't know me, I taught my first LabVIEW course in 1989. I was 5. It's actually not true, but I was not 5. I did teach my first LabVIEW course in 89. I have 3+ decades, a long time, working either for NI or in the NI community itself. I did other weird stuff for about 2 years. And so I've been doing this gig for quite some time. Absolutely love this community. As I was reflecting on what is that one thing that unifies the different roles I've had, whether it's sales, whether it's working for Brian as a field architect, whatever my roles were, I was always coaching customers on software. So I've always been a software coach. Now, a lot of times, my advice to a customer would be something to the effect of, I have no idea, go talk to Hunter Smith because he knows this. Or go talk to Q because he knows this. So I'm not the deep expert, but I am a connector in this space. I helped stand up the Certified LabVIEW Architect Summit with help from many of you guys in the community. We're going to bring it back again. Eli's not here, but we are going to figure out how to bring it back again. And Brian Powell, who's up here up front, he helped us stand up the LabVIEW Center of Excellence, the NI Center of Excellence, and then I help out with other crazy events and things that Sam decides to go do. But what was fantastic is I had great opportunity to shift back out of NI and to the community. Now, that was my third time to work for NI, so it was my third time to actually leave NI. And in mid-December, it was great, spent time with family, and I had the time to sit back and really reflect on what is it I want to do moving forward. And it was fantastic. So this is what I've been up to. Our family is departing Denver. We've been here since '93. We're moving to Franklin, Nashville. We're going to kind of live in various places in Tennessee. I am living out of a Ram 1500 truck right now with some suitcases. We do not move into our place in Franklin until mid-November. And I put my husband on a plane today. He went to Nashville, and I'm living out of a suitcase. So, and that's important to know because I'm going to talk about AI. And I'm not a data scientist. We're going to talk about human creativity, but I'm not a neuroscientist. But last night, I slept in a Holiday Inn Express. Those of you in the US do, hopefully you remember that commercial. So anyhow, I am doing a variety of things right now. Some of my projects are around software solutions architecture. And and several other people that I know as well, sometimes we're working with some startups. So I have several projects really in that space. And then Sam Taggart, I don't know if Sam's still here or not, but Sam is my partner in crime. We are taking Steve's CTI that you heard about in Laura's presentation, and we're going to go teach, I kid you not, this is the title, LabVIEW for Labs. Because right now, LabVIEW is a test and measurement tool, but we are going to go teach LabVIEW from a sensor-centric standpoint over at CU Boulder next week. And so that's something fun and different that I'm working on. I've been talking to Eli and Chad Rui about the LabVIEW NI Center of Excellence because of everything else going on, like moving. I haven't had time to do anything, but when Eli gets back from vacation, I'll talk to him. So if you have questions about that, please let me know. And finally, I am here to talk to you guys about owning our AI, and this is doing gigs like this or things that I'm looking forward to doing in the future. So one of the things that was fun was that when I had a whole lot of free time, I sat for an AI session that a gentleman was giving. Oops, I hit the button. And so that should make it go away. There we go. And so he was talking about AI, and you know, we generally think about AI as chat, GPT, and cats and dogs, and video, and all kinds of stuff that really doesn't apply to our jobs today. But he was presenting it more as a automation tool, a software automation tool. And so his business, he was a consultant for smaller companies and helping them automate various things. And the little bells went off in my head, ding, 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 ding. I've been doing software automation for 30 plus years in various capacities, even as a salesperson many decades ago. So AI is just going to be another tool. And so I decided to invest, much to my husband's chagrin, because at the time I was not bringing in any income, but I decided to invest in one of those executive education courses. I chose Northwestern Kellogg because my husband got his double-E degree at Northwestern. That way he wouldn't complain about me spending money for a course when I, at the time, was not making any income. But I also liked this course because you've got Berkeley, you've got MIT, and these are these executive education courses where you can do it in the evening, you throw down between $2,000 and $3,000, and it's online, but you get a lot of good interaction with the subject matter experts. And what I liked about this course, and you'll see this in a moment when we get to it, is that the focus really was on thinking about your company. So the people that they are really teaching are C-suite executives. So we heard a lot from Eric today about really drilling down into test and measurement. We're going to look at that again. But when we look at AI, it spans the entire enterprise. And so that was really fun. And so I'm going to share a couple things from that shortly. So here is our agenda. We are going to start with thinking about our human creativity. So who was here in GDevCon Boulder 2021? Outstanding, because I'm going to need some helpers when we get to the end, and you guys know what I'm talking about. So I gave a session on engineering creativity on demand. And so we're going to talk about that first, because we want to anchor AI within the context of understanding our human creativity. So when somebody says, well, AI created this, or AI thought up that, what does that actually mean? So we want to anchor first in our human creativity, because we created all that AI stuff anyhow. Then we're going to take a brief look at the history of AI. And what's been fun is Eric and I actually never coordinated on our 2 presentations. And I'll talk a little bit about history, but things that Eric did not talk about. So we do want to cover a little bit about that, because that does guide our path forward. And then we're going to take the AI and really apply it along your customer journey. Now, your customers may just be some of the peers that you work with, but we want to think about those outside of us that we can assist with AI. So, engineering creativity on demand. I gave a TEDx talk on this. TEDx Cherry Creek Women 2021, December. You can catch it on YouTube. You just search for me, YouTube, TEDx Cherry Creek, or the title, and you can pull it up. So, first I want to frame what did Nancy mean when she said engineering creativity on demand? And so let's look at each one of those words. So the first word is engineering. And when we talk about, what we're going to talk about today isn't just about engineers. This is not about getting all of us as engineers, scientists, technologists, technicians to be more creative. When I say engineering, I specifically mean a process. That's it. So engineering refers to a process. So now let's look at creativity. So an example of creativity is art. So since I bragged about one kid, I got to brag about the other kid. So this is a LaFerrari. It was codenamed Project F-150. Does anybody find humor in the fact that this was codenamed F-150? Anybody else have a pickup truck like me, Ford F-150? But anyhow, so my son did this watercolor. He is so much more talented than I am. But a lot of times when we think about creativity, we make the mistake of thinking about the arts. And the reality is, generally speaking, creativity is just a great idea. Any great idea. And that's what we really want to talk about today, is leaning into that human creativity so that each of us has more time and is more focused on making sure we create those great ideas and capture them. There was this great idea a long time ago that's kind of the reason why we're here. That has absolutely nothing to do with art. It does have to do with technology. And there's another great idea sitting on top of that Mac, and it's a Tupperware bowl with some Oreos in it. So if you want to hear about great ideas and source code control, you can go talk to Brian Powell. You can go talk to Eric Ruffett or any of the NIers that know the story here. I'm not going to tell this one right now. I'll tell it later. So we've got engineering, creativity, which just means great ideas, on demand. So when I say on demand, do I mean like how quickly it takes Jimmy John's to get to my office? The Jimmy John's is 100 yards away. It's about 7 or 8 minutes for Jimmy John's to get to my house. That's freaky fast, on-demand food. But when I use the term engineering creativity on demand, and I have some other illustrations in the TEDx talk, what I'm specifically referring to in this context is predictable and having confidence that we're going to have those great ideas. Because here's a challenge that we have as engineers, because we're left-brain thinkers. You know, you got accountants are left-brain thinkers, and many others are left-brain thinkers. We are supposed to have the answers, because we're engineers, and we're supposed to have all of the answers. And someone comes up to Q and says, Q, we're going to go do this, and what do you think about X, Y, Z? Now, Q will have a good answer. There have been times when I'm kind of like, I don't really know that I have a good answer for that question. Because the reality is, even within engineering, sometimes that good answer is something that is a new idea that we really need to come up with. And so it's helpful when we can get to the point where we can confidently say, I don't have an answer for you right now, but I can get back to you in a day or two. Or I could give you an answer now, but I really want to give you a good answer. And so having that confidence that we don't have the answer in the moment is really important. And you know, all of us, when we come to these types of events, and I felt like this at these events, and when I was a young salesperson, and it seemed like everybody there had all the answers. And there's that super smart person on the stage, and what do I have to contribute? Every single one of us is built to be a creator. And we all have great ideas, and the more we start to think about how we are uniquely creators, we can lean into our great ideas even more. So as we lean into this, we've got engineering creativity on demand. So I appreciated David's presentation this morning, because he has a specific model. And I love how he called it FizGood, because there is no way I could pronounce FSGD. It's kind of like the podcast that Sam and Steve Watson and I do, and it's called This Month in LabVIEW. And Tamil, I don't know how you pronounce that acronym. We'll work on that. But I appreciate the fun acronym associated with the model that was presented today by David. So the model that we're going to have here for creativity is input, incubate, ideate. 3 steps. That's all you got to worry about. It's the 3 I's. It's a simple model. And we're going to dive into each one of these aspects, the input, the incubate, and the ideate. And you'll have some tools for each one of those. So before we get into the details of what is input, what is incubate, what is ideate, let's talk a little bit about the brain. And so I would love to have the contraption thingy on my brain when my brain is in all 3 of these states to actually see what's going on with the neurons in my brain. But let's take a quick look at the brain. Because often I think about the fact that when I am focusing on something, working on the slides, reading, writing some code, my brain is on, period. And when I'm not doing those things, my brain is off. So as soon as I get up to go wander around, go for a walk, go for a swim, my brain is off. That's kind of how we think about it. Focused, brain is on, and then brain is off when I go wandering around. And I press the button back too many times. Oops, I didn't want to go back that far. All right, so brain is on, brain is off. The reality is our brain has 2 modes. Our brain has lots of modes, but generally speaking, there are 2 modes that our brain operates in. One is the executive function. So when I am focusing on things and I'm in front of my laptop and the screen, these are the neurons that are firing in my brain. Go look at the electrical activity, it's all right here. So it's called the executive function. I am focusing. Then as soon as I get up, move away from the screen, get out of my chair, start walking down the hall, my brain, what feels like turning off to me, is actually going into the mind-wandering state. And that's the default state of our brain. And when my brain is in the mind-wandering state, happens to be in the mind-wandering state when I'm asleep, that's where all the neurons are firing. And so there's all kinds of electrical activity going on back here when I'm not focusing, when I'm going for the walk. And so these are the 2 modes of the brain. It's generally, I'm either focusing or my brain's in the mind-wandering state. So let's take those 2 aspects of the brain, and we're going to come back to the 3 I's, the model. So input is the term I use for when I have the executive function of my brain working. I'm studying, I'm writing some notes, I'm in a spreadsheet. I hate Excel. Everybody that knows me knows I hate Excel. I'm building a database. I'm just focusing. And that is the input. So that's step 1. I have to put in the hard work. So we all know that phrase, I had a great idea out of the blue, right? That didn't happen. There is no way, and I'm looking at you, Alan Smith, that Nancy Henson is going to have a great idea about Actor Framework. Because I have not focused on Actor Framework in like 15 years. I'm not going to have a great idea about that. We don't get them out of the blue. We get our great ideas based on what we put into our brain. And so I've always felt like I was more creative when I was doing multiple things. Okay, I'm selling software. I take a philosophy course. Selling software. Learning to play the piano. I didn't go learn to play piano a long time ago. But doing multiple things, because then we're getting multiple inputs into our brain. So we have to do the input. And one of my favorite authors, and I'm going to quote 2 authors that wrote in the 70s. And both these gentlemen, their books are absolutely fantastic, true today that they were before. But Rollo May was very famous for writing Love and Will. He was an existential psychologist back in the day, really focusing on what does it mean to be human, and also a lot on creativity. And so he reminds us that the great idea that we're going to have is only in those areas in which you have been consciously, laboriously working on it with dedication. So if you're not getting good ideas, There might be some more input that needs to go in. So I've learned over time when there are certain times when I can't get anything done, I'm not going to be productive, no great ideas are going to pop, but I'm going to go read for half an hour on a topic that's relevant or somehow tangential. I'm going to do more input. And so that's part of us learning how and when to, I can do more input, free up time to incubate. All right, so that's the input. Then we're going to move to incubate. So incubate is that mind-wandering state when I think my son, his brain was perpetually in mind-wandering state through high school. But again, the neurons are firing in the back. And so we have input, we put the stuff in, and when we walk away, then the brain does this weird magic shit. Did I just say shit? I'm so sorry. More so, well, I said the B word earlier, more so than anything some little AI algorithm is going to do. Just saying. So, Keith Sawyer, great researcher. Incubate's not some word that I came up with. It is the term that is used in science, and I love this quote here, that exceptional creators, they have their best ideas emerge when our brain is in the incubate stage. It's unguided, unconscious. The brain does its thing and makes those connections, and boom, you have that great idea. If you want to learn more about this, go read Keith Sawyer. There's many models of creativity where there's 8 steps and 55 steps. And I didn't even see that chart of all those steps. I just came up with 3, and they seem to be working pretty well. Which explains why Einstein had his great ideas when he was shaving. He's like, why do I have these great ideas when he was shaving? Because he did the input, and then he went to sleep. And the incubating brain connected all of the things, and he'd have a great idea in the morning. My best great ideas are consistently in the morning. I'm not going to compare myself to Einstein, but my best ideas are in the morning. And I had an associate one time, and she said, always, or rather she said, never, ever go to sleep without giving your brain something to work on. Now, I'm fortunate that I don't wake up in the middle of the morning or in the middle of the night with great ideas, feeling like I need to write them down. I don't get my ideas they don't pop until coffee, so I'm lucky in that regards. I have friends that they got to keep notepads by the bed and things like that. So let's remember this context here. We are engineers. We focus on input. We are not always willing to say, you know what, I'm going to start coding for a while. I'm going to stop coding. Sam Roundy, I don't care what you say about my hours right now and whether I'm billing, but I'm going to go walk down the street, around the block for 30 minutes, because that's what I need to do. It is important to step away, because that is when the good ideas happen. I have had one good idea while I was in front of my laptop. And I was on a phone call, and my peer that I was on the phone call with is like, I got a great idea. I'm in front of my laptop. He's like, dance with the frog. I'm like, yep, dance with the frog. So in my study and wanting to present these ideas, I really wanted a metaphor for the incubate, for that phase. Because if we are not paying attention to incubate and giving ourselves the time and the space to let the brain do its mind-wandering thing, then it's not going to happen. And so I came up with a metaphor called Dance with the Frog. This is Nate up here. He got named yesterday, so this is Nate. And when you're dancing, you're not thinking. Your brain's not in the executive function. And if you want to hear more about kind of how I came up with that, there's some analogies I had in that TEDx talk. So anyhow, incubate, very important. Dance with the Frog is the incubate stage. It's a metaphor, and it's good to just put the darn thing in your planner. Whether it's going for the walk, whether it's leaving and going to the gym, go swimming, all the other great places you are when you have great ideas, make sure that you put it in your planner. And think about that. Pay attention. If you don't know where you are when you have those great ideas, start paying attention to it. So you got to have merch. And so I've got about 100 of these. And this is our little robot. I will use AI to turn him in from a blue robot into a green frog for next year. But he has his little frog thing on him, and he dances. So grab one of these back at my booth tomorrow as a reminder to get out of your chair and go dance. And I was not putting these on the table because I knew not 30 of these things going off and doing splits while we're trying to finish up. So the third piece is the ideate. So after you've been in the incubate mode, then the idea pops. And it's that aha moment. And it's fun that we realize, yeah, you get a dopamine hit. I mean, scientists have said you get a dopamine hit when you have an aha moment, which is why these events are so much fun, because this whole event is structured around focus, 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 get up and walk around, talk to somebody, boom, ideas hit. So we are constantly going through the cycle of input, incubate when you get up and walk around, and then ideate, the ideas pop. That's what's so fun about conferences. We dive in detail and we have all these great ideas. We're getting the constant dopamine hits. Now, if you're super young and you have no kids, you might be able to remember these things. Not for me. I still have this great idea I had about 2 years ago, and I still don't remember what it was. So capture it. Whether it's dry erase markers on the mirror. My friend Gavin annoyed his roommates to no end because he'd get up in the morning and write all over the mirror, and they'd be like, Gavin, that's not cool. But he did it anyhow with his dry erase markers. Tub crayons. I love AI now because Evernote, I love the Evernote app. I talk into Evernote all the time, every time I have an idea. One of the places where I get my ideas is in my car. And so I make sure I've got Evernote ready to go. It's turned on. I can talk right into Evernote if I need to. And for those of you that say, well, I go scuba diving, and that's where my ideas are. I can't write anything down. There are waterproof little things you can write on. I got some waterproof booklets as well. So you all have these booklets here, and the point is grab one. These are less notebooks that you have in the middle of your table. They're smaller. That is something for you to stick in your pocket, stick in your laptop case, so that when you have great ideas, during this conference, start writing them down. And by the way, I started using mine, and the pen works really, really well. I was very impressed. So that is engineering creativity on demand. And if you have any questions about that, ask me about it afterwards. I'll be here all day long tomorrow, and the third day, and DQMH day, and all of the rest. All right, human creativity. And think about it. Think about how much a kid learns by the age of 2. My 2-year-old son was looking at a squeaky ceiling fan saying, that's obnoxious. How does a 2-year-old know the word obnoxious? Our brains are pulling in so much input regularly, far more than what these little bots are doing these days. So let's talk a little bit about the history of AI. And I think Eric had an absolutely fantastic summary on the history of AI. I'm not going to bring up anything else that Eric already mentioned. Some of the highlights are here. There's 2 that I'm going to mention. By the way, ChatGPT 4.0 did write this for me because I was too lazy to transcribe it from a magazine. So thank you, ChatGPT, or GPT 4.0. Now, we're going to talk about 2 people here when we're looking at the history, because these guys are giants in their field. They are the thought leaders. And what they talked about way back in the day is completely relevant today. I mentioned another book that was written in the 70s, and we're going to talk about that guy too. But first, we've got to talk about Alan Turing and the Turing test. If you haven't seen The Imitation Game, you want to go see it. Alan Turing, brilliant. They were the ones that cracked the Enigma code that helped put a close to World War II. If you want to go see the real Enigma machine, go to the International Spy Museum in DC. It's a really cool museum, one of my favorites. But anyhow, Alan Turing wrote an article called Computing Machinery and Intelligence, exploring whether or not a machine could truly think and be intelligent. And it's an interesting question. And in this, in the game of imitation, if a human can detect between the AI and the non-AI, that's one thing. But if the machine can actually imitate, and I think it's written by a human, that's where he kind of says, yeah, then it's intelligent. Well, I'll disagree with that, but I think this brings up something interesting for us today, and that's the written word. So when I write something, am I going to use AI, or am I going to use my voice and my language? And that's something that you guys want to think about. When are you going to do it? Because I can tell you, it is really annoying to be on LinkedIn and see executives who put in their profile that they are thought leaders, and it's clear that their article, it was AI that spewed the information. And today, the AI cannot compare to human. Every time I see something, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's AI. And then I go put it in Watson AI, you can write that down, Watson, and Watson will go analyze for plagiarism and whether or not it was human written. It's like, yep, my instincts were spot on. So even though the focus of Turing is something slightly different, it's important for us to think about when do we want to write our own words without the help of AI. Well, I use Grammarly to make sure I get my grammar halfway decent. But if I have my name on it, I authored it, AI did not author it. All right, one other gentleman we want to talk about, Eliza. So anybody heard about Eliza? Yeah, excellent. I'm going to mention this twice. If you have not seen the Tesseract session webinar on AI, you definitely want to go see it. Absolutely fantastic content. It is not a repeat of anything I'm saying or anything that Eric Ruffett is saying. They do mention Eliza. But what's interesting is, so it was Joseph Weizenbaum, he was MIT scientist, and he came up with this program that you would literally type into a terminal, and then Eliza would reply back. Now, for those of you that love plays and musicals, this is Eliza of Eliza Doolittle and My Fair Lady. That's how Eliza was named. And it's interesting because Joseph, as this thing became really popular at MIT, he saw how quickly people became attached to it. They anthropomorphized Eliza. It's a decadent terminal. It's not even have a picture or anything on it, not even an avatar. But people became attached to it emotionally. And so he said, I got to step away from this, and I got to go think carefully about this. But it's interesting, because here's a conversation that would happen. A person would type into the terminal and say, this is going to be fun. Men are all alike. Eliza would reply, in what way? And then the person would type in, they're always bugging us about something or other. And then Eliza would come back and say, can you think of a specific example? So he goes on, and Eliza was programmed it was kind of a rules-based programming scenario. There was no neural network learning here at all. And it was a certain style of psychology that was programmed into Eliza where you reflect back the question that was asked. So it became a problem. And so he realized that, I like this phrase here, it would induce powerful delusional thinking in quite normal people. And he admits readily that we do become attached to things. I mean, we become attached to, and he mentions we become attached to our motorcycles and our cars and instruments and other kinds of technology, and became attached to the computer as well. And so that really led him to the point where he's like, I've got to go really think carefully about this. And I think it's important that we don't look at that thing as a person. It's not a person. And so when we take that step back and say, well, what is AI? It's an algorithm. And even the deep learning that appears to be magical, that appears to think, that appears to create, it's a matrix. It's matrix math. It's not a human. It does some really cool stuff much faster than we can, recognizing patterns and complexity. It does a lot of great things. But it's just a tool. And so this little robot dog, AIB, the name was actually AI Buddy, but you can call it AI whatever. The point being, this thing, this algorithm, is not the one that should be holding the human by the leash. This is the thing to be trained. This is the thing that is just a tool and it is not human. So, all right, let's take a step, and now we're going to look real quickly at applying AI to the customer journey. And we want to use AI. AI is a great tool. And one of the things that AI does for us is it abstracts away some of the mundane human stuff that we don't want to do. I don't want to write another algorithm in C#. Or and this is where I really like, this book is really fantastic. You got to kind of find it. It's $50. It's like not in print anymore. But he talks about, as humans, we've been creating tools to make our lives easier since the beginning of time. You have axes, you have shovels, now you have a wheel, then you have, a steam engine. And this is just another evolution and another tool. But let's take a look at how we're going to apply AI, actually, to the customer journey. So we're gonna look at the customer journey and expand a little bit beyond just test and measurement. Because, I had a great conversation where, I'm not gonna say who said this, but you know who you are. We were having this conversation and you said, yeah, my company's like, we gotta use AI. They don't know how they wanna use AI. It's like, we gotta use AI because we don't wanna get left behind. And so what we want to think about is we want to think about the context. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some different categories of AI, and then we're going to weave it into the customer journey. All right, you guys saw this slide already. Eric Reffett had it. This is a slightly different version. This is the exact slide out of the Kellogg course that I took on AI, and so I'm giving them the credit there. There are some slides in the course that are do not show or distribute. This one we could, but this is basic. But I love the term that they use for general artificial intelligence. It's, I'm having one of those moments. Good old, what is the term again? GOFAI. And I didn't write it down in my notes. Okay. Good old-fashioned, thank you. Somebody was going to find it for me. Great, good old-fashioned artificial intelligence. I knew I was going to forget something. So we've got good old-fashioned artificial intelligence. We have been doing that for decades, those of us in this industry, in various ways, shape, and form. Eric shared that. And I want to highlight machine learning, which in Eric's history slide started about 1997. And machine learning is not this fancy kind of generative thing we have out there. And machine learning is an interesting tool because I can go download KNIME, which is open source, and put it here on my laptop. And so I'm not doing anything on the cloud. I'm not doing anything on a server. And I've got a variety of different models. And then I go get my own data. And that's sometimes the most time-consuming part of an AI project is cleaning the data. Some people estimate, 70% of your time is spent cleaning the data. And so I can go clean, so I have my KNIME, and it's what's fun, and don't even try to look at the details here, but I put it up here because it looks like a LabVIEW flowchart, or it looks like LabVIEW. You start on the left, you enter your data, and then the yellow is cleaning your data, and then the actual algorithm, in this case a decision tree learner, is the green thing. And so you put all this data into the green thing and train it, but you saved a little bit of data for it to do some prediction, and then you start feeding data back into it, and it does everything on its own. But it is rules-based, and you kind of have to get it started. So that's that's machine learning. And then if we look at deep learning, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail here because thank you, Eric, for diving in all the terminology and the stuff I did not want to cover. But I included this picture right here because I think this picture does a really, really good job of showing, okay, we've got all these neurons that just know, they start firing together when they recognize the same thing. And then that's kind of how things are working with deep learning and neural networks. So it kind of gives us a nice visual of kind of the comparison to a certain degree. But again, this is just a comparison, and I love this gentleman. I brought his book, and I quoted him because he's about deep learning, a visual approach. So I'm a graphical thinker. You guys remember that LabVIEW slide? So you like to program in a graphical language? I also like lots of pictures when I'm trying to figure out what the heck a tensor is and all the other crazy things. So anyhow, this guy's got a great book, but he reminds us it's like a stick figure compared to the brain. And the way our brain functions and works. And so I like how he kind of anchors us in the fact that even though we're seeing amazing stuff come out, yeah, it's kind of sort of a comparison. And again, it's just matrix math. So now we're going to apply it. We've got a lot of questions. I'm not going to dive into this, but we have to ask questions around cost. How much effort is it going to take? What is the security involved? And where do I start? Start with your business objectives or the objectives of your actual team. Look at the jobs to be done within your team. And so if I look at the customer journey, and I think about the customer journey from the perspective of a typical NI partner, this is sort of what it looks like. You got to sell and market, you got to write proposals, you're going to collaborate and develop, and kind of have some loops around there, eventually deliver, sustain, and service. And so when I was going through this AI course with Northwestern Kellogg, we had to all do a capstone project. And so at the time, I did not have an employer, so I picked out a few hypothetical NI partners. I actually talked to a few of them and put together a strategy around doing AI. And it's really important to stop thinking about the bright, shiny object, think about your business, forget AI for a moment, think about your customer journey and the jobs to be done. So we're going to real quickly, in about 4 to 5 minutes here, go through a couple of options before we close everything out. And so when we look at this journey here, I love what NI is doing, and I have signed up to be part of the AI trial and the early release. Haven't got my hands on the code yet, but everything I've seen, generating the code, generating test requirements, and finding instrument drivers, and all of this stuff, all this generative stuff that NI is doing is absolutely fantastic. And they're going to monetize it. It's going to cost them a lot of money to do it. You think about all the people that have to be hired to do this work. But AI Emerson can invest in all of this, and it's going to be a great thing for them to turn around and monetize. Fantastic. I work for a small company. I'm not going down that path. I'll let NI do it, and I'll buy their tools. Likewise, TestRack is also, I mentioned TestRack in their webinar recently. They are doing a fantastic job of building a knowledge bot for test and measurement. So they can capture tribal knowledge. That is one of the most important challenges that everybody's working on today. And there's a lot of ways to solve it. Go ask GPT 4.0, how do I create a knowledge bot in Azure? How do I do it in AWS? And it will give you a bunch of details. And then I look at all those details, I'm like, I'm going to hire TestRack instead, because TestRack has already gone through the hard work of going through all those details. Those are the trade-offs that you'll make over time. And again, and I am inclusive nationally on my dollar signs up here. I caught somebody else's presentation. So euros. So Sam with TestRack is going to make a lot of money, hopefully, with some of the things that they're doing. And what I love about it is they're doing it internally, but then they're also, I think, based on what was public in the webinar, they will license it to their customers. How fantastic would that be able to be to say, hey, Q, what did you do here? And Q is off in London, and on the 9.5 track, is that right? 9.5? Oh, dadgummit, 9 3/4 Harry Potter track. Q's off with his family doing Harry Potter things, and you can still ask Q questions. So this is a very, you might want to do this just within your own organization. It might make sense to do it just scope to your organization. And like I said, go ask GPT 4.0 how to get started. You might want something more broad. You might want to be able to license TestRack. So also in this space, and I'm really curious about this, and I hope we all have some conversations before we depart on Thursday. And Jeff, I think I'm pretty much going to be on time, so we'll be good. So anyhow, what about our customers' DUT? It's kind of like, do I do something? Okay, the DUT passes, the DUT fails. Is there a way to go get the right data in the right format, and then be able to really provide some additional insight to my customers on their DUT? Maybe I extend it and I start learning about the components that go onto the DUT. Maybe I end up having a service where once a DUT's kind of final, I, as a partner and integrator, I own the rest of the DUT, all of the rest of the maintenance, sustainment, because I get to know the DUT and everything else, and that frees up the partner to go do more interesting, creative things on their next DUT. Just a crazy idea that will happen at some point. I mentioned NIME earlier. The exercise we did in this course was we looked at subscriptions for cell phones. And so when you use this certain algorithm in NIME, that thing that looked like kind of like LiveView, you put all your data in, and then it will tell you Mr. AT&T, here's the most important feature for a 57-year-old woman with 2 kids and 3 stepkids who's moving to Tennessee. And so then when I get online, it might change my subscription or whatever. But again, it is your data. You're doing it locally on-prem. And so even with LabVIEW, and Eric Ruffett asking us questions around, all right, what are the key aspects about LabVIEW and the features and the things such that you're going to want to keep renewing and not become part of the churn? Those are some problems that can be solved without way too much expense, at least as it compares to the deep learning generative tools. Real quickly, I'm just leaving this up there. You can write it down. When Sam and I do this course next week, we're going to have video of us doing the instruction. We're going to feed it into this tool, and this tool is going to crank out what we said, and it's going to divide it into topics. It's going to create flashcards and all kinds of extra learning content just off of a video. That's great, because I don't want to spend the time on that. Also, I was talking to Patrick. He's using chat just as an intern. Go write this algorithm. Go do that. Real quickly, I've been using GPT 4.0. There's another tool called Poe that I just started using. Poe will talk to all of the little bots, and then you can start playing the bots off of each other. Generating proposals. I've got friends that generate proposals and you have several steps to it. You say, okay, and you be very specific, like Eric was talking about. I run a company that maintains swimming pools, and I am going to give you 3 proposals, and I want you to create a template for me. That's great. What's your challenge here? Security. Swimming pools, not that big of a deal. Work for the US government, probably don't want to be sending any of those bots proprietary information. One quick thing, and then we're going to get to our closing statement. You can create your own GPTs. So don't forget, you can create your own GPTs. You can use this to create sales and marketing material. Just as an FYI, I did not create my marketing material using AI. I hired a human named Melissa, and Melissa got to know me, and Melissa went and she used AI to do some of the materials and some of the ongoing stuff. So Melissa did not get replaced. Melissa's using the AI. When you're using the AI, you don't get replaced. Think about how you want to organize AI in your brain. This is kind of how I organize it. There's LLMs, applications, there's custom LLMs, and then there's the bots, and then there's some other things that I can work on. So we want to lean into our human creativity, and especially on these deep learning systems. They're only called deep learning systems because there's many, 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 many layers in the algorithm, not because they're deep thinkers. We are the humans. The humans are the deep thinkers, period. So just keep that in mind. What's really important as well is express your creativity. Share it. There are a lot of you guys out here that I want to see up here next year. And I like how Rollo May mentions it. He's like, if you don't express your original ideas, you don't share them out, then you're not contributing to your community. And so we really want to lean into our human creativity, in part, so we are pragmatic about AI and own our AI, but we also kind of want to lean into our creativity just so that we can contribute in our local spheres. So for those of you that have been here or saw this in 2021, you know what's coming next. This is so important that we remember input, incubate, ideate. We're going to learn a little dance. And so Alan's like, I can't believe she's making us do this. So, but I want you guys to remember this and remember Dance with the Frog. So what we're going to do is, everybody know the chicken dance? I kind of forgot the motions of the chicken dance and had to be reminded, but it goes like this. You know, go to Texas, it goes da 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 da. But we're going to change it up. We're going to change it up so that it is reflective of what we've just learned. So we're going to do input, incubate, ideate. So it's going to be da 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 da. And you can't do it sitting down. And we've got about, we're over by about 30 seconds. So get up fast so we can get this done. I'm going to do it once, and then we're going to do it together 3 times. So it's going to go Da-da-da-da-da. Input. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Incubate. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Ideate. All right. We're going to go slow and get we're not done yet. We're going to go slow and get faster. Here we go. Da-da-da-da-da-da. 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 One more time. Da-da-da-da-da-da. 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 Wonderful. You guys now have all the skills you need to lean into your human creativity and make AI your bitch. Thank you.